It has to be diversity of thought. Just I think people get excited like Black representation, South Asian representation. Like I don't agree with half the way the South Asian community thinks.
And Abhishek Bachchan was in that lot of actors.
I think he's very cool. I think for the way he grew up, he should be like a really bad person, but he's really not. I mean, he also is an actor's actor. I mean, that was the best I've seen him perform, and I saw it in front of my eye every day.
PR and marketing and alleged reports that are coming out, and so you create this narrative.
No,
I'm
going to push back on that.
It is. A lot of it is PR and marketing. Even before the film came out.
There was not actually a lot of press that was being done
for
this. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of the ConvoSutra. I am filling in as host or hostess today for Tarun, who's out sick. And we have some amazing panelists with us on today, so perhaps we should do a quick round of intros. Starting with you, Nazia.
I am Nazia Chandiwalla. I am an entertainment lawyer based in Los Angeles.
My name is Karan Wadhwa. I'm a filmmaker here in LA as well.
Pritesh, Shah, actor, comedian, host.
And I'm Jazz, host of the Hot Chai Pod, a Bollywood film and gossip podcast. So, Welcome, panelists. This is fun.
Jazz, you killed it, by the way. That was very proper and well done.
Ooh.
You murdered it.
Oh, and no cursing. Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah, Pritesh, that one's for you.
I love how everyone looks at me like I have the biggest potty mouth. I do, but I've been very good.
I probably have the biggest potty mouth. So, we actually have a very interesting question that we're going to pose here to you guys and to myself about South Asian representation in media, which is broad, I know, but like initial thoughts, reactions, how do we feel about how that's going in Hollywood, at least?
How it's going?
How it's going, how it's been.
When we have those conversations about representation, it's always interesting to me. I'm like, what that means for people. Does that mean like representation on like how we're represented and the culture and what you want to see? Or is it based on like population, you know? Because like we only make a 1% of the US population. So if we look at it from that perspective, should only 1% of things include us, right? I don't know, you know? It becomes like this weird place that people go.
And in this day and age, you know, like the distinction between representation and tokenism. Just as like, oh, well, we have diversity and, you know, we're having this like inclusive cast and anyone can play any part. So I'm curious, actually,
If we zoom out maybe like 10 years, right? You had films that included, it was more the cab driver, the doctor as the brown person. But now we have shows on Hulu like Delhi Boys, which is, it's more centered towards telling more of a brown story. But you also have, I think you mentioned earlier before we talked that you watched Freakier Friday, right?
Yeah.
And I believe, I forget
At the movie theater.
At the movie
I went
theater.
to the theater.
Good stuff.
I went to the theater too
popcorn and all
recently.
that.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I mean, I love going to the theater.
Two
sorry.
losers on the pub. It's fun. It's fun.
I love going to the theater.
But there was Indian representation in that film as well. But she was I haven't seen it, but she was just her, right? She didn't have to be because she's Indian, I believe, right? Yeah. Or I haven't seen the movie.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And that's Mayatri Ramakrishna, I think is her last name.
Yeah.
And she's the actress from Never Have I Ever, which is another show, which is like kind of based on like Indian kind of foundation of like Indian American experience. But just like, and so they had to cast Indian people, but.
I think it also depends how you define make it. And like you said, it's also South Asian representation in Hollywood is a very broad subject, but you're talking about have we made it or is there representation enough or is it tokenism versus representation? I think it's important to dissect how we define and categorize making it in Hollywood, right? I think that's what I would want to understand on a deeper level to dissect that further.
Are you talking about like success or like what the idea of making it is?
Yeah, is making it like we've arrived and now we're everywhere? Is making it the quantity of projects that we're doing? Is making it the quality and type of representation we have? Are we looking at like just film? Are we looking at TV? Are we looking at broadcast journalism? So I think I really agreed with the point that you made and how we're looking at it. But yeah, I would say, how do we really define making it in Hollywood? I think that we are, given a couple of these shows that you just mentioned, like Never Have I Ever and a lot of the other projects that have come out, I think we're slowly expanding in the Hollywood ecosystem. Like you have writers like Amina Munir who, wrote on Never Have I Ever. You have, I believe her name is Neela Khan or Neelaz Khan, who directed a couple of episodes of Never Have I Ever and now is making her feature film with Hassan Minhaj.
Right.
So you definitely have people like behind and in front of the camera, South Asian people behind and in front of the camera who are making waves in the ecosystem. But I think quantitatively, there's a lot more to do and a lot further to go, because I think that there's maybe a select group of people that have the access and the power to make these shows that then employ South Asian creatives on it. But I don't think that that's enough.
Well, and I think to Pritesh's point, like if we look at the U.S. population, like, yeah, we're a small fraction, and then globally, we're a huge part of the population. So from what perspective do we consider ourselves represented enough? And I do think, as South Asians generally gain more economic power in the U.S. through the doctor, lawyer, engineer track, and then their progeny get to go out and be creatives, right? It is kind of that like generational step, and they do get more kind of production input, or they have dollars to like back a project and stuff. And so I think it is important, you're right, to have writers and people behind the camera who have like a way to see South Asians not as like a monolith or just as doctors to be cast.
But I think it's also go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's also when they are employed on these shows, like how are they employed on these shows, right? Whether you're acting or whether you're behind the scenes of it, like how are they even being employed? Is it like I think we've definitely moved farther away from the traditional employment of the cab driver or the doctor with an Indian accent. You see like people playing detectives and lawyers on Law and Order SCU, for example, even if it's just a guest role. So that kind of, I do think that there has been a shift in how South Asian talent has been employed on these shows, but to my earlier point, it's definitely not enough.
The way I look at it first is like, is the story good and compelling? I don't care if it's South Asian or outside of any identity stuff. Like, is the story good? And I feel like sometimes people try to ride like, oh, there's an Indian story. But I'm like, before we get into all that, is it a good story? It needs to be good first. It needs to be compelling outside of any identity base. I think that's the most important thing, because in the end, I want to be connected and inspired by a real story, less about who's telling it. First, the story needs to be good. And then the way at least I like to tell stories, or what I like, is not so much an Indian story. It's like, it's a good story and I just happen to be Indian in it. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I think when it's identity led, Indian led, and there's like an agenda, I find myself very disinterested.
Yeah. Politically, you're like a historical perspective.
I'm a human being like any other human being. I just happen to be in this brown skin and have an Indian cultural background that I respect, but it's not everything I am.
I do agree with that. I feel like a lot of it has also been, you see a lot of identity-led projects where it's like, this is a South Asian film, or it's a South Asian story, and it's with these actors and these directors. And I sometimes feel, looking at that as an audience member and a consumer of entertainment and media, that's I feel a counteractive or counterintuitive. Like, if we want to be more out there and part of like mainstream Hollywood projects, in short, whether it's television series or feature films or streaming films, any kind of motion picture, basically, I think to Pritesh's point, it has to be more led with, here's an actor who was good for this part, and it has hopefully less or almost nothing to do, it's very story dependent, but less to do with the fact that they're brown and this is, their background explicitly and specifically. And I think a lot of projects, especially indie projects, are very identity led and culture led. And to me, that's counterintuitive to what the purpose should be.
I want to actually pass this to you in a second, but I do think that there is value sometimes in those identity led stories, because it does add an element of authenticity, of like, no, there is a very specific setting that we're in. And it kind of serves as like a dual purpose of like also educating, people beyond just like white American stories and households. And it's like, oh, you're kind of getting this like soft exposure to something else and normalizing that too. So then you can see as like, oh, it's not a brown Superman, it's Superman. Like, there's like a way that it travels through media. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly.
I both agree with you. I just think the story has to be good first. So it's story led. That's what I point. And I don't disagree with your point.
And I think that's fair too. And like, for instance, with Korean cinema, there's stuff that, like Parasite resonated.
Squid Games.
Everybody, right? It doesn't.
Incredible.
It doesn't. That is story led. It doesn't have to be. It could have been, I guess, anybody. But sometimes there
should have been me. I should have been Squid Games. I'm in the lead. Honestly, I don't care if it's Korean. I should have been
Parasite.
I could have been the Indian guy adopted by a Korean family, and then there's nothing else to think about.
Karan, what's your take on this?
Well, I think, not every ensemble cast has to look like an H&M ad just for the sake of, having diversity, if it detracts from the story. And I'll take an example that I think is a good fit, that a film like Monkey Man, for example, right? Authentically a good story, rooted within India. I wish they shot it within in India, but that's another thing.
Tax breaks.
Tax, Indonesian tax breaks, yeah. But it wasn't made as a John Wick remake, but they called it John Wick or something like that. It wasn't anything like that. It was its own story, its own
We
origin.
have better names than that.
Yeah,
Right?
John Wick.
Yeah, absolutely. But for example, if someone said, "Hey, someone actually asked me this, would you be happy if the next James Bond is Indian?" And I go, "Well, I don't know. That's not a fair question."
If he's
because
hot,
We're,
he's hot.
But why not?
James Bond can't be vegetarian, bro.
But
He gotta be strong and athletic. I don't
I
know
would
about
ask
that.
he can
why
be
not to
Muslim.
that. I'm curious.
That's my
I'll
point.
take
Is
Muslim representation.
it's not a matter of does he have to be Indian for the sake of it, but if there's an actor that fits it and he just happens to be Indian, that's great, because James Bond is not actually inherently white. He's just a code name, and it could be a black Bond, it could be a brown Bond, it could be whatever. But if it's forced, then no one wins. We don't win either.
Well, it was, by that same lens, there was this movement of, oh, James Bond should be a woman. But it's like, well, why don't you just tell a different story or make a different story?
Exactly.
That I agree. I don't really get the whole James Bond should be a woman. That's the whole identity, like the narrative.
Feels
Create a
forced.
different. That's very forced and doesn't stay in the same realm. But I agree. If it doesn't matter what the background is like that, it needs to fit a thing. Daniel Craig kind of changed that, because when he first came out, I was like, "Who's this guy?" Because I was like, Pierce Brosnan, and then I feel like he was one of the best James Bonds.
He's
I like
great.
everything about him, and
Very
his
charismatic.
body's phenomenal. Which I was like, every time I watch him, I was like, I have to go to the gym. I have to go to the
You know
gym.
what? You're going to the movies.
And let me tell you,
Same
I
reason as
appreciate
me.
fitness. I ain't gotta be gay to be like, Daniel Craig, you look incredible, bro.
He's watching it in 4D.
I watch it 4D.
went
Well,
full
look, Halle
glasses.
Berry comes out the ocean right after. Don't get me wrong.
That's true.
My childhood crush.
That's true.
But I thought he actually did change it. I think people now take it for granted. It was weird when we're like, who's this dude? Like, he's
Yeah.
like big, and he doesn't have the traditional old school suave thing that Pierce Brosnan had or Sean Connery had. So that was
He
always
has the more
rule.
like strong silent type. Yeah,
Exactly.
the mysterious. Yeah.
So it's just, I think it naturally happens.
To that point, right? Because then it's like, who are we casting in these, South Asian roles? Is it only like the best looking, and is it like a true representation? Like for instance, controversial, but when Shah Rukh Khan came on the scene in Bollywood, people were like, he's like not hero. He's like not Amitabh Bachchan.
He's
kinda
not traditionally good looking.
He's not
just a phenomenal
traditionally
actor.
good looking, but
Yeah.
he's extremely, I love him. He's charismatic, whatever. But
Who doesn't
it
like
kind
him?
of changed. You'd be surprised.
I'll get into a
You'd be
fight on that, but
surprised.
I love him.
I'm going
love
Reddit
him.
and
The best song. I will say this on record. In my opinion,
one of
at
the best
least
songs ever.
in my 34 and a half years of existence, Chaya
It's the best.
Chaya is possibly the best song I've ever heard in my life. It's like
I got my white friends on it.
hot take.
really no,
Yeah.
it's true though. The lyrics,
Yeah.
Gulzar Sahab, the music,
The moving train.
Air
I mean,
Rahman,
come on.
the singing, Sukhvinder Singh, and the drop in the beat and the choreography, the costume, the picturization. It was way ahead of its
I
time.
listen to it every day. It's
And
in
you
my
know,
gym playlist.
Are you? It's in mine.
It's in my gym playlist.
It's like one of my
Yeah.
like treadmill running songs, probably.
You get an extra
or
pump
like
in.
when I
Yeah.
really need something
Yeah.
to like perk me up or whatever. But I think, and it's the best part about that song is it has lasted the test of time. It has
agree.
like started from a decade when we were babies to like still today. It is as fresh as probably songs from like the olden songs are.
Did a lot for trains, for sure.
It's
People
a lot
love
of trains.
trains.
I want that red bomber
Killed it for
jacket. That's what
trains,
I
yeah,
want. I
that's
want that red
true.
bomber jacket. So in my opinion, Chaya Chaya is like possibly the best song.
I have to agree.
Ever.
It's one of my favorite songs.
At least in our
ever.
generation.
Yeah.
And taking a page out of the Bollywood, kind of scene, there's some criticisms in Bollywood, obviously, with casting, and I'm really curious about your take on this, Karan, because they're like, oh, you have to be like primarily like fair skinned to be cast in a Bollywood movie, and the actresses who make it big are usually fair skinned, and there's exceptions, obviously, like Deepika Padukone.
By the way,
or whatever.
fair skin means light skin.
Light skin.
To all the
and,
non-Indians
lighter
out
skin.
there.
You know, hold your coffee up real quick and just show what fair
Can
skin.
I go ahead? Can I move forward?
Yeah.
He's like, please come back to position.
That's
color.
fair skin.
That's
That's
fair.
Yeah.
No, I think fair is
Or
even lighter than this.
Yeah.
Yeah, even lighter.
This
but
is like the Indian fair.
I mean, so now you're getting to like the colorism there.
So then in Hollywood, by contrast, the criticism is when they cast South Asians, it's always someone darker. And some people view that as a positive of like, oh, look how progressive, Hollywood's not as colorist as India. Or are they colorist because they're like, well, if we want an Indian person, you need to look Indian, and by Indian we mean dark. So what does that? What do you think of that? I was like, when you've been in casting roles, and then I'd be curious what you have to say about that too.
Yeah, well, so if you, I was talking to a friend of mine who's in his mid 40s, and he's not white, but he was wondering, why am I so attracted to just white people, right? I know it's
That was your conversation.
Existential question.
I think Pritesh would have a lot to say in that comment.
He was actually saying it.
I see his face right now. I'm so sorry.
No, it's
Go
okay.
ahead.
It's okay. He was saying it in the sense of, I feel bad for this. And I go, all right, well, let's do something real quick. Let's just pull up like the top 10 commercials from when you were in your teens and 20s. They were all blonde white women or sort of the typical brown
Victoria's Secret
white
models
man.
back in the day.
Yeah. The typical
Gap
brunette,
model.
blonde, right. And so now I think it's a matter of, looking at movies, any form of media, film and television, and saying that we need to be able to put people in there so that in the future generations we see everybody as good looking. I mean, I think there is a power
Not
there is
everybody.
power that be not everybody.
There's some people. Whew,
True.
I need to take my contacts out after I go home. I can't believe what I saw, bro.
That's
It's
what I used to do
bad.
on the
There's
train
some
in New
bad
York.
out there. Let's be
I don't want to
honest.
see.
I've been there.
I appreciate
for
being
myself,
positive.
too. Yeah.
So you're saying it's good to normalize. I agree with that. I want representation of all skin tones in any cinema, but is it kind of problematic when it's a primarily maybe white story, and when they cast a South Asian person, they choose someone who's darker?
Yeah, I mean, it is really not the right thing to do. But it just does come down to, is this person the best person for the role?
But the thing is, it's so subjective. Too,
it is very
when you say
subjective.
that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, what does that even mean?
Right, because maybe there's more South Indians in the acting game than there are more.
Or in the
whites.
story. I mean,
know.
that's a good
Or in the
point, too.
Yeah, in the story too. But
Maybe.
I think also colorism is something that India has really.
They're very guilty of it.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a Hollywood thing as much as a very big Bollywood thing.
It's very tarnished.
I think it's
It's in
actually
both.
universal.
Yeah.
It's,
It's
the
definitely both.
byproduct of colonialism. And I mean, even, within subcultures here, African-American cultures and stuff, there's colorism.
Yeah, true.
But I think that there's another aspect to it, because it's not even think. It's like sometimes you have to understand, people say show business, but I always say it's business show, right? And the business aspect, it comes before show. We all get in because you believe in the art and you want to do those things, but then it just comes down to what's the name, what's the selling point, what are we going to get a loan for, what actor works in what markets. Then you go in that way. That's why I see the same actors recycled over and over again. You understand producing me too. It's like, I want this person. They go, well, if you put this person and they're in these 20 minutes of the film, then we can get this, And sometimes, like you said, you want to choose the right actor for the role, but you're not going to get funding if you do that. So there's so many, that's what I learned just from producing, where I thought it was a certain way. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
it's easy to talk crap about these producers and these productions, but you can't get the movie made then.
Yeah.
And then you kind of have to sit with yourself and go, okay, am I going to be stubborn and stick to my loins? And I can respect that if you do, but if you don't, I get it as well.
Yeah.
'Cause you're just trying to get something made.
I do think that when people think of South Asian casting, they are thinking of like the stereotypical skin tone and, face type and all that stuff. So there is, if not on a conscious level, I believe there is on a subconscious level some colorism going, because you see the same type of South Asian faces across different types of projects.
In Hollywood.
But what do you mean
I'm
by
speaking
face type?
specifically.
That's more
Like, I
interesting
think to
me.
her point is like specific skin color or specific lip color. Even if I'm looking like, for example, forget TV series for a minute, but like if I'm looking at a lipstick commercial and you're looking and they have those, medium skin tones and you're putting in brown faces into a campaign, whether it's for Sephora or a specific lipstick brand or whatever, there is, there's not a diversity of the different types of South Asian faces, which is different types of like skin color, different types of like lip shades. If you look at it, there's like one type of skin color, one type of eyes, and one type of lips. And I've seen this across different cosmetic campaigns going on. And that's just one example, right? And I think that also extends when you're casting for film or television, that there is a specific like prototype or stereotype rather in mind, and they cast according to that. And it's like, that's great, but it's like me as a brown woman, I'm like, I don't look like that.
Exactly.
Like I'm not even surrounded by I'm surrounded by a mix of different looking South Asian women, but I don't particularly look like that. But to your question, the point I was making was to piggyback off of Pritesh's point is that a lot of it, and now I see this even more clearly after having worked at a talent agency and seeing how, projects are packaged and sold and what people are looking for in terms of hiring South Asian talent on projects and stuff. I think a lot of it is like marketability, saleability, who's profitable, especially in today's economy right now. Like the risk taking has gone down very little. People want to make safe bets. I'm going to say this cautiously, but who's in power, right? Because if you have like the same like couple of talent on top, let's just say 3 or 4 names come to my mind, right? They have access and power and leverage to make shows, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a movie, whether it's a TV show, a documentary, whatever it is. They have their viewpoint. They have what they want to make, right? So we need more people in positions of power, more South Asians in positions of power in the industry to then expand the type, not just the type of stories that are told, but the different type of South Asian talent who are employed on these projects.
It has to be diversity of thought. Just I think people get excited like Black representation, South Asian representation, like we're all this unified force that think alike, have the same experience, and that's really, I don't agree with half the way the South Asian community thinks or feels.
Well, I don't think they all agree with each other. I mean,
but that's an important conversation to have, is because the real diversity is diversity of thought, diversity of experiences, right? And so this whole notion that like me alone, I represent brown men, I don't represent Indian men, I represent me, and like
you don't feel that responsibility. Do you feel that responsibility when you're making projects? Like,
what do you mean responsibility? I'm
like as an artist, like, oh, you're just like, I'm just an artist. I'm not a brown artist.
No, but I'm being authentic to my story. So if my story connects to people, then it connects to you. But like, I could talk about exactly how I grew up and how I was raised in a Gujarati family, in a Hindu-based family, and someone else could watch, another Indian person could watch my story and feel completely disconnected from it. I grew up in upper middle class San Diego. One of my close Indian friends grew up on food stamps in Sacramento. Right. My story is so far-fetched from his world, even though we're both Indian, right? He can't fathom the world I grew up in. Right? But
I agree with you, because you're basically saying you can't be the torch bearer of entire community.
I don't expect Indian men to represent me at all on TV.
But
if I connect, great. But if I don't, that's okay.
That representation should also come from the story itself. Like, what is the story that's being told and being made? And who's casting you? Who's going to direct you? Why are they casting you? Like, all those factors are important. I don't think it's just about, hey, I'm brown, here I am.
If I'm writing a story, and the story comes to mind as an Indian person, as an Indian man, and because maybe for me it's just easier to write that because I can share that experience. Yeah. But then in my head, I start thinking, okay, well, am I going to be able to get this made with an Indian person as the lead? And so then in my head, while I'm writing it, I said, no, let's change his name to Nathan, like someone else. That's wrong of me to do, obviously, because it's inauthentic to the story, right? But let's say if a studio is saying, hey, we're not going to be able to get this story made because this is a 1% of the population. So who's really going to relate to it besides you and your friends and family? I would push back and say, no, but I wrote this story as, let's say it's a heist film. And I just wanted, the main character to be Indian. He has to steal money because he has to steal money. It has nothing to do with him being Indian and therefore he has to steal money. Those are conversations that has to be fought,
That's authentic. Exactly. See, I like that.
Yeah.
That's not identity based. That's story based.
Exactly.
I can get behind that.
Yeah. It's not forcing
I would agree with that.
It's
for
not
sure.
forcing
it. But I think that's a classic example of like, yes, you want to see more representation, but to Pritesh's point, it has to be story led. Like, is this a good fit for the show or the movie? Not just, hey, we need brown representation, so this person has to be brown and this has to be a brown story, and the background has to be brown. Like, I think one of my favorite characters, for example, was don't laugh. I don't know if you've seen the show.
Well, you guys both just saw Freakier Friday, so I already don't trust your
judgment. I haven't seen Freakier Friday. I saw Materialists, and you saw Freakier Friday?
Yeah.
I saw the poster of Freakier Friday.
And I went to, I always go to the theater.
No, I said I was watching And Just Like That, which is a spinoff of Sex and the City.
Wait, what? There's a show called And Just Like, do you know about this?
Sex and the City
Oh my God. Anyway, Seema Patel's character, I loved it. I loved it. I think that's a classic thing of like, hey, here's this main character who's South Asian, and yet she plays it with as much panache as any of the regular recurring like series regulars.
But they had, and they, what's interesting is because they didn't have the original Samantha Jones in this, reprisal series, they kind of put her in as kind of this figure of Samantha Jones, like the older, single, sexy, and she's amazing in it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
her culture does come up in the first season. They're like, they bring them to like a Diwali event, and her parents are like, oh, and she's not married still, and she's, you know.
Which I think I honestly thought that was fine. That was great. Like, I don't
was
know why
dope.
it was
done
so
honestly,
controversial.
yeah, that's awesome.
But that's what it is. Like, I think it's beautiful if a Michael Patrick King or whoever, you know, the respective person was who thought of, hey, we have Seema Patel, Sarita Chaudhary in real life. Let's make her culture like Diwali part of the episode. And then they, in my opinion, showcased it beautifully.
Yeah. No,
And so I think that's a beautiful way of amalgamating both the things, right? Like good casting, great acting, phenomenal actor, but also very naturally and respectfully embedded into the storyline without it being tokenism or just calling it out.
Then it
for
comes
the
down
sake
to looks too, because outside of like race and anything, you go in like, we all have stigmas of like, what does a nerd look like? Like what is the look of a nerd, right? If you're casting, they'll say, "Oh, we need a nerdy type." That's like a description, right? And like for example, like I'm a nerd in real life.
Are you? Are you?
I'm a homebody. I read all the time.
Okay,
Well,
but
that
that's
makes you
me.
a
but I wouldn't
nerd.
categorize myself as a nerd.
I'm a nerd.
But what
homebody.
is okay?
I'm
No,
a
hold on.
nerd.
No. But then okay.
I
but
would say I'm intellectually curious, but I
What's-
wouldn't
what-
categorize
what's-
myself
what's
as a
your-
nerd.
okay,
What do we
fine.
define as nerd?
Nerd to me is like someone who's, you know, into reading. Like I'm studying astronomy all the time. I studied Vedic astrology for 7 years. I read, I meditate, I sit at home all day. Like that's the world I live in.
I think
to
you're
me that's a
curious.
nerdy. That's a blueprint of what characters are like in scripts that are considered nerdy.
I think
I
that's
would
like
say
an
they're more
introvert.
awkward. Yeah, they're more awkwardly based. They're like glasses are a part of it.
Yeah,
I'm a
What
nerd.
you're describing is, I know what you're saying,
But
but I'm just
okay,
saying,
so you
like,
put
you're not a
glasses on
nerd
me.
to me. I think you're just
No.
intellectually
Yeah,
curious.
so my point is they have a complete viewpoint. They have it's not an identity of behavior, it's just a look is how they cast.
Yeah.
Which is so interesting because I would love to play one of those characters. That would be very interesting.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. If you like this episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.
If you had to pick between like nerd, geek, or dork, what would you describe yourself as?
She's all three.
You're all
100%. 100%.
No, I think
100%.
I'm 1,000% nerd. You know, my background is I have a like strong science research background. I work in tech. You know, I'm like reading. I'm like very involved in politics and political theory and stuff. So
It's good.
That
Nerd,
fits.
nerd
Yeah,
geek, and dork.
I'm
I'm
more
a
of a
super-
dork for
super
sure.
nerd.
I'm a dork
I'm
too.
big dork energy. No, you said you're a nerd.
Well,
no,
I'm
he's
nerd-
not allowed anymore.
But
Yeah.
I think I love comedy and stuff, and I'm a goofball.
Yeah.
And to me, that's more dorky.
You're more of
Goofball is its own thing. Dork is
You're
like,
annoying.
we're
me.
all goofballs.
All right.
Now you're annoying. There's
it's fair.
too many categories, and he doesn't think I
And
fit
then
in
I
any of them.
I think we need to define these categories
Yeah.
before you can assign.
Let's
these labels.
re-identify after all these
Wait,
conversations.
What are you?
I would say I'm big dork energy. Huge dork energy.
Okay,
Like
I
I
can
like
see
getting
that.
into really niche
That's
things.
what he puts in
and
his
just
Hinge
getting,
profile. Big
That's
dork
right. Big
energy.
dork. Why do you guys keep bringing up
Did
the
you say
Hinge,
you're a
man?
nerd?
Trying to get you set up now.
I would.
You're a lawyer.
I wouldn't say I'm a nerd. I would say I'm intellectually curious. I'm very analytical. I'm curious more than anything. And I would say I'm a dork for sure. I think people who know me well would know the dorky side. But if you meet me as a stranger, you're not going to see it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say nerd. I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't. I'm not geek
I
for
would-
sure. I'm not geek for sure.
Geek to me is
Do I look like a geek to you right now?
Yes. To me, it's 100%. When you first meet her, you're like, she's really mean, and then after that, you're like, she's a geek.
Pritesh, that is
But-
not.
I'm
Say
joking.
the right thing
I'm
on
joking. I'm
camera.
joking. But I think geek to me is like a computer person. Like I just think of Best Buy Geek,
Geek
Squad.
Squad.
But I think
Yeah,
geek is like
that's fair.
nerd synonymous. Like they're kind of interchangeable.
That's
It
true.
is.
It's,
But I think
I
the
think
point of
tech
this
people-
conversation is look at how we're trying to define it. So it's hard to put
hard
into
to define
characters
things.
in a film. That's actually where the conversation I'm going to, because we define it so much based on looks
And stereotypes, yeah.
and how it is instead of a character traits.
But you know,
feel me?
Pritesh, but that also does come, and you said this, and you said this, like it should be story led, and it is about people in the room, and you know whatever. But sometimes it is about unconscious biases and like, or even preferences, where you know we have a certain type of South Asian that is cast in Hollywood, and yet in Bollywood we have some of the most there are some we have Aishwarya Rai with the blue eyes, right? We have a Katrina Kaif, these like stunningly beautiful women who are not sought after and cast in Hollywood films. Which might I don't know if I'm saying that in a political way so much as saying like I think if they're like, oh, if we're gonna cast like a bombshell with blue eyes, we're gonna pick maybe a white American or European.
But I think
Indian
that also
women-
has
Indian
to do
women
a
are-
lot with. Go for it.
No, Indian women are very sexualized though. So like the biggest dichotomy I would say, especially in casting, is that Indian men are completely desexualized.
Yeah, I
and
agree
Indian
with
women
that.
are hypersexualized. And Asian men get that too, because I've gone to so many auditions where they'll be like, I've been told before that I don't look Indian enough. which is so interesting. I've been told that numerous times.
What
I mean, it's
what do
literally,
they say you look like then?
there's like, oh, you don't look Indian enough, which I think they're basically saying like you don't look nerdy enough or you don't look a certain way that we expect an Indian man to be, right?
Uglier.
Especially if he's, yeah.
I hate to say it.
Yeah,
hate to
so
say it.
that's what they would say, and it'd be like even my agents would tell me that was feedback they'd get sometimes, right? Or like if they're looking for like the best friend or the sidekick, they don't want you to they want you to look a certain way.
Well,
right?
in the perfect, what was that show? The Perfect Couple.
Great.
The one with Nicole Kidman and stuff, and then they cast Ishan Khater in there,
yeah.
and he was better looking than almost all of the cast except Nicole Kidman. And I thought that was like strong casting choice.
It was a
for him
very
as like
strong
a
casting
kind of side.
choice because he did a phenomenal job.
Yeah,
I think the way
he was great in it, yeah.
the way he portrays interiority of the character
Yeah.
was mind blowing. So whatever, I forget the casting director's name on that, but whoever saw him and chose him for that through his auditions was a great
Yeah, he did a good job.
counterintuitive casting. But to your point, it's also I think important to keep in mind that if we're not casting Bollywood actors into Hollywood projects in roles that hopefully they can fit, a lot of it also has to do with, are these Bollywood actors even trying for Hollywood, which a lot of them are.
Yeah, they are.
And it's like, have agents noticed them and pick them up for representation? Third thing is, are they carving out the time to be a part of these projects? Are they prioritizing that? Which is a huge part of.
It's a different style of acting too.
It's a different style of acting. But my point is, there's a multitude of reasons apart from not just looking at brown actors.
Yeah, no, and I respect that, and I actually was not speaking like to cast Bollywood actors, but I'm saying the Bollywood look, which is different, right? And this like
They're almost too
severe
perfect.
beauty,
Yeah,
this
they're too
severe
perfect.
beauty, right?
Yeah.
The average Bollywood actress is just stunningly beautiful.
But the guys too.
The guy,
They all have 8 packs and
more
like, they're
diversity,
ridiculous.
more diversity in looks for the men. Ajay Devgan, whatever might Sanjay Dutt,
I
whatever
think
might
it's
be.
those are old school actors. Those are old school actors who were not at that time. What people are looking for in actors, male actors at that point, was very different from what they're.
Do you remember when Danny
seeking in
Boyle
male
he went to
actors
India to
today.
cast Slumdog Millionaire? And what he came back was, everyone's too perfect here. All the male actors are too model-esque. So he went back to England, and then he got Dave Patel to play the lead.
I don't know. Do I find that slightly problematic? You couldn't find some like gorgeous brown guy here. I see him all the time.
Hassan Minhaj made an interesting point that he was like, do you think that the average Asian or South Asian actor has to be way more good looking to be considered like normal compared to a white actor?
Yes.
Like a Dax Shepard, right?
Yes.
Would you say Dax Shepard compared to his other colleagues is a good looking man? No, right? But then no disrespect to him, but
I mean,
married to
this is
Kristen
Hollywood,
Bell.
so it's nothing.
But
We're
yeah.
not saying anything. He would represent like an average looking dude who's in really good shape.
Right.
Like a
Above-
Midwestern
above
Like
average,
a,
above
like a
average.
Daniel Day Kim looks like handsome Squidward, freaking
handsome,
cut,
handsome guy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Or if you have to be extremely good looking as a South Asian, like a Kumail Nanjiani had to change his whole body for Eternals, all these things. It's not, you can't be average looking in as a South Asian or an Asian person.
Tell Aziz that.
Well, Aziz then went, he wasn't
Tell
getting,
Aziz that. Then.
that's why he writes and directs his own
You
stuff.
sound like my
you know?
brother.
Huh?
You sound like my brother.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. No, I'm not. There's no hate on his talent. I'm just talking
Yeah.
about. We're talking about looks. So
Yeah.
I'm just.
No,
bringing
you
that
do.
up.
I think it's also visual medium. So I do think that the bar, much like they say between men and women, the bar is higher for like women. I do think that in this capacity, the bar.
It's true.
They say that the
It's
bar
definitely
is
true.
higher.
It's definitely true.
Yeah. Do you want this? I was gonna say doodh wala.
No, I can't drink milk because I'm trying to keep my figure. It's really hard to be a man.
to be that above average
Yes,
cast
yes.
for okay.
But it's not
But
even.
yes, in short, yes, I would agree with that. Probably because that's what you have to like portray to get casted. It's also to be mindful on the flip side of the coin. It is a visual medium. Like people want to see people who look good, whatever that means to
If
you.
it fits the
It's
role,
pretty-
for sure. Yeah.
If it all fits a role, but I'm just talking about looks right now, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a visual medium. You want to see people who are attractive and good looking on screen, white or brown,
Yes,
frankly
no,
speaking.
You sound
I
like
do.
my mom. You sound like my mom.
But it's true. But I do agree with both of you wherein, yes, an average looking non-brown person has higher chances of getting hired easily, whereas probably if you're from a South Asian background, you probably have to.
Well, what do you think in Bollywood? It's so. I mean, obviously, looks are a big thing in our culture, like anywhere else. But why do you think in Bollywood they're so beautiful? Even
Well-
the men and especially the younger ones. I mean, they're like very.
But they all look
good-looking.
the
them,
same.
all
They're
of them.
so
don't-
homogenous.
that's true, too.
And like, are they
Which
beautiful, or
yes.
is this just now like so homogenous? Like, I'm not even thinking of them as beautiful.
Well, I'm not
to be
thinking
honest.
of actually the newer generation who is, really like surgically altered or using
Yeah,
skin lightening treatments. Like, you know,
It's so unattractive.
traditionally,
they were
even,
doing
you know, Areca, these women are just stunningly beautiful, right? And I think maybe it's a few things. One, there's so many people. So to stand out, it's like, wow, you want a pageant or you're a model, you know? And so it's like the most beautiful person in the room is just picked because, I mean, that's what catches the eye. Or two, a lot of Bollywood is romantic based. So it kind of has to be like believable
Fantasy a
that you'd
little bit.
fall
I don't
in
even
love
know,
with
like,
them.
but there's like barely any
Like
romance films coming out. I
That's
think
not true. Sayara just came
one
out.
film amongst many
That's
other
not true.
non-romantic
There's
movies.
a lot of people just don't hear about these films, but they
no,
are
I
released.
keep up with everything, and I'm telling you, there's
As much as
barely
High
any.
Tripod, you
I
keep
have
up
a
as much as
Bollywood
Jazz. She's a
podcast.
Bollywood podcaster.
I'm a.
Okay.
Margaya. Okay, I'm
There
just
are still
let's just chill. Let him talk.
there are still romantic movies that have been made over the last. It never stops.
But barely any that even like reaches your hearts, right? Like the true like good romantic films. I
DDLJ.
feel like
Some of that's nostalgia for
I
us
was
though
gonna say,
too,
it's
as
just 'cause we were younger.
NRIs
We
too.
could've
we
been
got the
younger.
best, man. We got the best. But no, Sayara's out now. I just saw it this past
Is it good?
week.
I heard it's
Amazing.
good. I heard it's good. I wanna
It's
go see it.
good. It's good.
Blew
I
my
think it's
mind.
also a bit overhyped, but it's good.
Well,
I
that's
don't
every
think
film
I
that's
don't
good.
think
But
it's
for
overhyped.
this,
And
no,
I-
it is. But I think it's good for this generation because the generation that we live in is so like next, move on that they don't realize, you know, they don't value love and loyalty and commitment. So to have a character like Krish Kapoor in a movie package like Sayara was probably a big thing because it's like, oh, here's this man who's not leaving this woman, et cetera, et cetera. But again, we grew up on the best. We grew up on Shah Khan and we grew up on whatever came after that. But I think that for this generation, it's a valuable film. I think in general, having watched so many films over a lifetime, I think it was good. I think it was just a bit overhyped. I think there was also PR and marketing and alleged reports that are coming out. And so you create this narrative.
No,
No,
I'm
you
going
create
to
this-
push back on that.
It is. A lot of it is
It's
PR
not-
and marketing. Even before the film came out.
There was not actually a lot of press that was being done
There
for
was-
this
there
film
was- it
compared
was
to most
alleged.
releases.
What was the alleged
No, I don't
like
agree with
criticism with this that you're bringing up? What you're saying, marketing? What do you mean? What
No,
happened?
I'm not saying. I'm just saying like it. It was a good film. I'll say it again. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. I would watch it again. I loved Ahan Pandey. I think he did a good job. And he acted really well and stuff. But I'm saying like it was good. Maybe it was just my subjective tape. I didn't think it was as great as it was like portrayed to be. And so, but what I'm saying is a lot of it is also like marketing and narrative, right? Like this film is so great and et cetera, that you start thinking and viewing of it like that, or you start expecting.
But that I would
the
say I would
film.
agree, but I'd say that's existent in any film. That
Yeah,
does that.
but
because that's how they push everything.
But if the audience enjoyed
but-
it, which is evident, through the box office, right?
how much
if
money
people
did it
love
make?
it,
It made a good amount of
about
money.
500 crores
It's
or
at 500
something.
crores now worldwide.
Damn.
And if if the audience liked it, is it overhyped? If they actually loved it and they're posting about it, and you see them dancing or crying in the theater, which people were crying around me in the theater when I watched it, and like, is it overhyped or is it hyped enough?
Yeah, and
Is it
Subjective.
worthy? Is
It's
it worthy
subjective.
of the engagement that it's getting?
it was made on a relatively low budget. Yash Raj came and picked up the distribution because they knew it was a hit, so they're gonna market the hell out.
And they had
heck out
Mohit
of it.
Suri. I think this was the first collaboration between Mohit and Aditya Chopra.
What's the
Yeah.
synopsis of this? Can you guys give me the synopsis?
No,
of this
actually,
film?
no spoilers because it's still running in theaters. But
I'm gonna go watch it,
But
I'm just
getting
saying.
but getting back to the
Report back. I'm curious.
the topic, that how this came up was, that in Bollywood, because there's a lot of, romance films, they want the heroine and the hero to look romantic together. So there is this expectation of like, oh, be better looking. So that's convincing for the audience. Like, you look like someone that would be easy to obsess over. Yeah.
I think it also depends on obviously the film and how it's being projected, right? Like if you're like a pretty hero and a pretty background and like, everything's just very pretty, then yeah, probably. And I think it's also the way actors are today is very different from the way they were, right?
Yeah.
Before, I think like many people have touched on this, like you have a lot of it is social media engagement. A lot of it is like paparazzi pictures and stuff. And so what it takes to get, like everybody obviously wants to get noticed and wants, to be recruited and casted in films. And I think for that, if the person next to you and the people next to you are looking great with 8 packs and, gelled hair and all that stuff, you're in this rat race to make it. And that way you start mimicking what is the formula and what is it you have to do
That's
in
why you
order to
said
be
they all
that.
look the
And
same.
also, yeah. And I think it's also like now you have like also I think maybe it was around 2007 where like the talent agency system probably came into India. So now you have agents, you have PRs, you have marketing people, you have obviously your director producer, you have your manager, you have like the entourage of 50 people telling you of who you should be and how you should be has become so systemized that you see all these male actors, maybe also female, but to your question, the male actors having this pressure to look a certain way, to be in that rat race, to get that film, to get noticed, to make X amount of money, et cetera.
Like 2 days.
Which I think is different from the demands and the requirements of what it took to be a star / actor in the earlier generation, right?
Made me think of you, Karan, because there was that transitional period that happened in the 2000s where the 8-pack and the hotness and whatever, John Abraham, Arjun Rampal, and Hrithik Roshan. And Abhishek Bachchan was in that lot of actors. And I remember he was very like famously asked on Coffee with Karan, he was asked, you know, why haven't you got a 6-pack? Like and he's like, I would tell those people to get a life. I'm focused on my acting.
Yeah.
And I would say that was to his detriment, to his, you know, the magnitude of success maybe he could have reached in Bollywood if he had kind of been more focused on like kind of being like in a sexier avatar.
Well, what you worked with him, so what are your thoughts about him? Like, talk about that.
I think he's very cool. I think for the way he grew up, he should be a total horrible person. I forgot we can't curse, right? But yeah. He should be like a really bad person, but he's really not. I mean, he also is an actor's actor. I mean, that was the best I've seen him perform, and I saw it in front of my eye every day.
It was amazing.
He did not forget a line. He did not, he was always prepared. And for this movie in particular, we made him, the filmmakers made him gain like 40 or 50 pounds. So he really went in the opposite direction. This was a film called I Want to Talk that I got to work on. And he was like really getting big for it. And he said it's part of the process. But I really think that he was right in saying that I am agreeing with you that it was a detriment to his overall career.
I agree with
but
him
he was
too,
right,
though.
to do that, you know. And if you look at someone like I would say like a Rajkumar Rao right now, is he like the hottest guy?
No.
But he's getting. You
But
can
we
see
love
he's chiseling up. You can see that he's getting the quiet surgeries, or maybe
Not
he's
just,
just
you know,
really,
a little leaning out.
It's the marketing aspect. I mean, I
Yeah.
met Johnny Depp, and every girl had his poster when I was a kid, and you see him in person, you're like, I get it, but like,
Yeah.
you're not like, come on, you could market you that way or me that way too if you wanted to.
I guess there is a lot of, you know, marketing and business and
It's also
analytics.
screen persona. Like when you see a film,
Shah Rukh Khan has that essence.
Oh.
Shah Rukh Khan's essence
Don't
is
get me
leading
started.
man, leading man.
I think we do have a long ways to go in terms of representation and, you know, the business side, engagement side. And I don't think this is a conversation that stops here with South Asians in media. I guess globally, it turned from Hollywood to Bollywood as it does if I'm around. Well, I wanted to, you know, thank you guys for coming on. And where can we find you all?
On Instagram at Nazia Chandiwalla.
Instagram too, directed by Karan W. And I think it's good that we have these conversations. I wanted to say that. I think it's very good that we do.
And I'm on everything at the Pritesh Shah.
And you guys can find me at Hot Chai Pod, and make sure to like and subscribe to the ConvoSutra everywhere, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. And we will be back next week. Thanks.
Later.